Welcome. I'm Yvonne Davis, and I have a guest today. This is David Steele, and today we're going to be doing an introduction to some consciousness-raising paradigms. So I want to start out by sharing with you our background. We've known each other for 13 and a half years, and we are accredited facilitators with the Rocky Mountain Compassionate Communication Network. If you're interested, you can go to rmccn.org and you can click on here, accreditation, and go down to accredited facilitators, and you'll find this page. If you want to learn more about David Steele, you can click on his link, or about me as accredited facilitator, you can click on the link. When you click on the link, it'll take you to a page that describes the person's background, and there is a form if you want to get in touch. So if you're interested in that, you can take advantage of it. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that we are both accredited in this language process. Some people call it compassionate communication. Other people call it nonviolent communication because it was developed by Marshall Rosenberg, PhD, and that's what he called it, nonviolent communication. So we also have decades of experience as life coaches. So I felt like David would, his bringing in his wisdom would be very helpful to everyone. So the modalities that we're going to discuss are astrology, warrior teachings, and spiral dynamics, which is a map of consciousness expansion. And what was the fourth one, David?
Nonviolent communication.
Oh, right, nonviolent communication. Okay, so, and I want to work with this in a very practical way. So, for example, working with an emotion like anger. So let's start with the first modality, which is astrology. And I'm going to pull up a chart. I just did a video called the Uranus effect. And so I can either put a link above, or you may have seen that video, or maybe I'll just include it on Patreon for you. But see, what I was talking about is the fact that we have Uranus in this very potent position in square to the nodes of the U.S. Declaration of Independence chart. And so we are looking at these alignments that are coming up. They've already been having an effect, and we're going to see them, the Sun conjunct Uranus square this weekend. And then it may, because of a full moon with the full moon conjunct Uranus, it may disrupt the elections. And then we see this alignment on Inauguration Day. And I don't want to go into a lot of depth about that because I just made a video and you can watch that video. So, so again, the four modalities or paradigms, whatever you want to call them, tools of transformation, consciousness expansion that we're going to work with are astrology. So that cosmic energy can trigger emotions. It can also trigger ways of expanding consciousness if we know what to look for. So as an example, Uranus can trigger anger. So we want to work with our own consciousness so that we can handle that energy when that cosmic energy comes down through our chakras. So I may talk about chakras too as another paradigm for consciousness expansion. So at this point, I think I will open it up to you, David, to see what you might like to say about consciousness expansion or about these four modalities, and what you hope that we will be able to accomplish in this program as we bring this material to my patrons.
All right. The website you went to is rmccn.org. I don't believe you said the link, the rmccn.org, when you showed people the website, just in case people are interested. So let me talk about, we'll start with astrology. And the potency of astrology and why it relates to consciousness expansion. The way I view astrology and find it effective is it provides a map of energies present at a particular place at a particular time. Mm-hmm. And the way I think about it is, if you are a sculptor or a painter, you have to, if you're a sculptor, you have to understand stone, let's say, and how it cracks and know how to use your tools. And so there are certain constraints, or painters, you have to understand oils. There are certain constraints that are placed on you. Within those constraints, you still have the freedom to make a mess or a masterpiece. And so I look at astrology as a way of looking at the constraints that are present at a given moment in time. But within that moment in time, and understanding the constraints, understanding the energies present, then that gives you leverage as to how you use that current moment and how you use your consciousness to create that mess or masterpiece or anything in between.
Yeah.
So that's how I view astrology and why I think it's important.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. I often describe it as the cosmic curriculum, so that we can see, it's like an organizing principle. We can see where to focus our consciousness so that we can learn whatever lessons need to be learned. For example, learning the lessons of Uranus, which is about disruption and unpredictability, because it keeps us on our feet, which is one of the lessons in the Warriors teachings about staying, fluid, flexible. So the mood of a warrior is to be free, fluid, flexible, formless, and fierce. And I like to add in the fierce because I think it's important to understand that anger, the energy of anger is a fire, and that fire can be very cleansing. I call it the sacred fire. We burn in the sacred fire. We eliminate the non-essentials, and we work with the woundedness, the lead in our own being, to transform it into power. And so that fire is really important to motivate us, but we often call it anger. And the Uranian energy, it can activate that fire. And so it wants freedom, it wants liberation. So Uranus itself is the energy, that warrior energy of to be free, fluid, formless, flexible, and fierce. But we need to know how to use that incredibly powerful energy in a way that can lead to consciousness expansion and creativity and all the things that most of us desire in this lifetime, instead of turning it inward or outward in such a way that it can become destructive, and lead to undesirable outcomes. So that's one of the things that I like about astrology. And then do you want to touch on any of the other three modalities?
Yeah, so let's hit them all.
Okay.
So you segued into warrior training.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're talking about how we apply anger to these modalities today. Mm-hmm. So life presents us with certain imperatives. If we don't eat, we die. Mm-hmm. If we smash our car into a brick wall, our body is going to be injured. Mm-hmm. And so when we're working with the physical world, and if we want to be proactive and sculpting that physical world, sculpting our reality to create our life, turn it into a masterpiece, mm-hmm. there is a certain amount of intention and discipline that is required, and a certain amount of intensity. When we put energy out, that energy mixes with our external environment to help shape our world. Mm-hmm. So the warrior trainings, and I would include martial arts in the warrior trainings, mm-hmm. they teach us a discipline. They teach us how to take the energy that's nebulous and chaotic and really focus it in an intentional way to manifest a specific result. So mm-hmm. that's why the warrior trainings are really important.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the fact that you used the word intention reminded me of a book by Wayne Dyer titled The Power of Intention, because he took the warrior teachings of Don Juan Matus as they were written down by Carlos Castaneda, and he translated it in a way that was more accessible for the layperson. So sometimes that's a good way to access those teachings. You know, it's kind of like a gateway to understanding those teachings. And we're hoping also that these videos will be a gateway to understanding those teachings. So do you want to touch on any of the other two?
Yeah, so we'll talk about nonviolent or compassionate communication. Mm-hmm. So fundamentally to our being, and it's ingrained in our physiology, and I think also in our psychology, is we want to know that our presence matters. Mm-hmm. We want to be a part of something. We crave connection. Mm-hmm. It affirms our being. It directs us to feelings of self-confidence. And so if we're going to create connection, both within ourselves and within the world around us, so we're active participants in reality, then that's all communication. Mm-hmm. And so from the perspective of bringing compassion into our communication, when we're feeling angry, we ask the anger, wow, what are you for? Anger is a physiological reaction to give our body energy. Mm-hmm. So there's something really important to us going on when we feel anger. So from the compassionate communication perspective and building connection within our being and bringing it into a more total expression of who we are, when we feel anger, we become curious. Mm-hmm. What is that anger? What is that anger wanting to protect? Why is it there? What is important? And we can even enter into a dialogue with the anger. Mm-hmm. So that's the MVC perspective. Would you like to add?
Yeah, because we learned both self-empathy, being able to listen to the self deeply and empathetically and compassionately to hear what that anger is trying to say, to hear what needs it's trying to meet, instead of pushing it away and thinking that it's somehow wrong or bad. But also we learn how to listen deeply to the anger of other people. And so when we work on the skills of this language process, which is needs-based and feelings-based, and we really listen deeply to the feelings, for example, the feelings of anger, to the self and what needs the self is longing to meet, and then listen to the anger of other people and what needs they are trying to meet, and understand that when you really truly listen to feelings and needs, there's no judgment, because you can't really judge a feeling. It just is, you just feel what you feel. And so when we listen deeply, empathetically, and compassionately, then we give the spaciousness for that emotion to be truly felt and heard, so that the energy can flow through instead of getting locked into the body as unprocessed trauma. And so that's partly what we're trying to do here as well, is to use this paradigm, this language process of feelings and needs, to be able to hear our own feelings and needs empathetically, and then to be able to hear other people's feelings and needs empathetically, such that we can create that connection instead of separation, because the separation often leads to violence, and that can be very painful and cause so much suffering. So do you want to touch on the fourth one now, which is spiral dynamics?
Okay. Spiral dynamics. So spiral dynamics is a model that looks at what the dynamo, what the engine, what the piston is that propels evolution. And it looks at it as an interaction between yin and yang, if you like the Chinese way of looking at it, between male and female, and specifically between communal and individual. And so you would say that the communal is the female yin, the individual is the male yang. And it's the interplay between both of those and the striving for balance between the individual and the communal that propels evolution in the spiral dynamics model. So when we talk about anger in general, we're going to talk about being on a spiral dynamics level known as red, which maybe we'll go into in another video in depth. Mm-hmm. But it's all about asserting individuality mm-hmm. and discerning what's mine to do and what's not mine to do. And standing up for what I truly believe in, finding the courage of my convictions mm-hmm. So that I can proceed without being hampered by fear. Mm-hmm. So that is how we would look at anger from the spiral dynamics perspective.
Yeah. So one of the things I'd like to add to that is that I had done some videos on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure I also posted on Patreon, but we'll go into more depth about this. It's a consciousness, it's a map of consciousness expansion and evolution. And so there are two basic tiers. The first tier is where you move up the levels, but you end up judging those below you. And then tier 2 is called integral, in which you're able to integrate all the levels in the first tier without judging. Because what we learn in tier 2 integral is that we actually need all of the levels. So that's just a basic overview, and we will be discussing, going into depth about different topics so that you can really start to work with this material. And we will also be having group Zoom sessions so that people can come together and be able to talk in real time, to ask questions, to have conversation, and to hear, what other people are thinking and feeling, and to work with that material as well. So I would suggest that after watching this video, if you would be so kind as to leave a comment and let us know, what questions came up for you, what you're hoping to work with first, and we'll also discuss that, and what time frames, like day, time, that would work best for you to make group Zoom session. Because although I can't promise that I can meet everybody's needs, I will do my absolute best to make sure that we are choosing times for the group Zoom session that allows the most number of people to attend. So David, do you have any thoughts about what you think should be our first topic for when we start the teachings?
Oh, what a great question. First of all, we very easily just skimmed over a year's worth of material.
Yeah.
Because each of the 4 things that we talked about goes very deep.
Yes.
And I think let's see what kind of response we get from the viewers. Because let me just say that we are in extraordinary times as a species, and I believe we're metamorphosizing. Mm-hmm. And all of this stuff is really essential to that metamorphosis. Mm-hmm. So we can reinvent ourselves as a new kind of global being that cares for the environment, that cares for one another, but does it in a way that really honors autonomy and gives space for individual freedom of expression.
Yeah.
And so, it might also be events in the world that determine what we do next, because something might just really be pertinent to something that just happened in the news. So those are my thoughts.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I will just sum it up by saying that we touched on 4 modalities or paradigms or transformational tools, whatever you want to call them. So that was the astrology, the warrior teachings, nonviolent communication, and spiral dynamics. And again, we may be adding more as time goes by if it feels relevant. So again, please leave your comments and questions below. And if you know the days and times that would work for you, please do that as well. That will be very helpful to us in terms of scheduling group Zoom sessions. And also, I want to give a hopeful message at the very end, which is, I believe that we have actually entered the age of Aquarius, and we are doing the work right now that we need to bring about this incredible experience for humanity. All right, so any last words as we say goodbye, David?
I would say that the general attitude that all of this evokes in me is gratitude. So for those of you who are watching this video, just my heartfelt thanks, because we both love talking about this stuff and sharing it with people, which means there has to be people with us for us to share it with. So thank you very much for watching this whole little introductory video.
Yes, and I second that. Thank you so much for joining us and doing this work with us. And we will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.